It was a warm afternoon in Oakland, California, on July 12, 1951. The sun filtered through the sprawling oak trees of Jefferson Park, casting dappled shadows on the grass where two brothers, Roger and Luis, played. Roger, a wiry 10-year-old with a mop of dark hair, kicked a weathered soccer ball toward his younger brother. Luis, just 6, giggled as he stumbled after it, his small legs churning with effort. "Come on, Luis, you gotta kick it harder," Roger called, grinning. His voice carried the faint lilt of their Puerto Rican heritage, a reminder of the island they'd left behind only a year ago. Luis puffed out his cheeks, determined. "I'm trying, Roger. It's heavy." The boys were lost in their game, the world reduced to the ball and the laughter between them. That's when she appeared, a woman stepping out from behind a cluster of trees. She wore a faded green bandana tied tightly around her head, her dark eyes glinting as she approached. Her dress was plain, a muted grey that blended with the shadows, but something about her made Roger pause mid-kick. "Hey, boys," she said, her voice smooth like honey. She crouched down to Luis's level, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "You like candy, little one?" Luis's eyes lit up. "Yeah, I love candy. Mama don't let us have it much, though." The woman chuckled, reaching into her pocket to reveal a single wrapped peppermint, its red and white stripes catching the light. "Well, how about I take you to the store? They've got heaps of candy there. Peppermints, chocolates, even gumdrops. You can pick whatever you like." Luis bounced on his toes, clutching the soccer ball. "Can I, Roger?" "Please." Roger frowned, shifting his weight. "I don't know, Luis. Mama said we gotta stay here till she comes to get us." "Oh, don't worry," the woman said quickly, standing up. "It's just down the road. We'll be back before your mama even knows." She extended a hand to Luis, who hesitated only a moment before dropping the ball and taking it. "Come on, Roger," Luis chirped, already tugging toward the woman. "You can get candy too." Roger chewed his lip, glancing back toward the park entrance where their mother would soon appear. But Luis's excitement was infectious, and the promise of candy tugged at him. "Okay, fine," he muttered, jogging after them. "But we gotta be fast." They walked, Luis skipping beside the woman, Roger trailing a few steps behind. The park faded into a quiet residential street, then another, and soon Roger noticed the houses growing shabbier, the air tinged with the salty bite of the nearby bay. His stomach twisted. "Where's the store?" he asked, his voice sharper than he intended. "Just a bit farther," the woman replied without turning, her pace steady. Luis hummed a tune, oblivious. But Roger stopped. The street was empty. No shops, no people, just the distant hum of a car. "This ain't right," he whispered to himself. "Luis, come on, we're going back." Luis turned, frowning. "But the candy—" "Now, Luis," Roger snapped, fear creeping into his chest. The woman tightened her grip on Luis's hand. "Don't be silly," she said, her tone hardening. "We're almost there." She pulled Luis forward, and before Roger could lunge for his brother, she quickened her steps, disappearing around a corner. "Luis!" Roger shouted, but his voice echoed unanswered. Panic seized him. He ran, not after them, but back toward the park, legs pumping, heart hammering. Minutes later, he burst through the door of their cramped apartment, tears streaming down his face. "Mama," he sobbed, "a lady took Luis. She said she'd get him candy, and I couldn't stop her." Their mother, Sophia, dropped the pot she'd been scrubbing, water splashing across the floor. Her dark eyes widened, hands trembling. "What lady? Where'd they go?" "I don't know," Roger wailed. "She had a green bandana, and they went down the street, and I ran home." Sophia didn't hesitate. Grabbing Roger's arm, she raced back to the park, calling Luis's name until her voice cracked. But the playground was empty, the soccer ball abandoned in the grass. Her little boy was gone. Sophia stood in the park, clutching Roger's hand as dusk settled over Oakland. She shouted Luis's name again, her voice raw, but only the rustle of leaves answered. Neighbors gathered, drawn by the commotion, whispering among themselves. "She's that Puerto Rican lady," one muttered. "Barely speaks English. Poor thing." Sophia didn't care what they said. She dragged Roger to the police station, her broken English spilling out in frantic bursts. "My son, 6 years. Woman take him. Green bandana. Candy." The officer behind the desk, a burly man with a tired face, scribbled notes, squinting as he tried to pass her words. "Slow down, ma'am. Where'd this happen?" "Park! Jefferson Park!" Roger piped up, his voice shaking. "She took him down the street, and I couldn't keep up." It took hours, translators, phone calls, and Sophia's growing desperation before the police took it seriously. By morning, a 9-block search was underway. Soldiers from a nearby army base combed the streets, their boots thudding in rhythm. The Coast Guard swept the bay, boats cutting through the fog. A local newspaper ran a headline: "6-year-old boy vanishes from park. Police seek woman in green bandana." Sophia barely slept, pacing the station's waiting room, clutching a photo of Luis, his gap-toothed smile beaming from a school picture. Roger sat beside her, guilt gnawing at him. "I should have grabbed him, Mama," he whispered. "I should have stopped her." "No, mijo," Sophia said, pulling him close. "You came home. You told me. That's enough." Days turned to weeks. The soldiers left. The Coast Guard gave up. The police had Roger's shaky description: a woman, maybe 30, medium height, green bandana, but no witnesses, no leads. Sophia returned daily, her pleas growing quieter, her hope thinning. "Anything?" she'd ask, her accent thick but her meaning clear. The desk sergeant, a kind-eyed man named O'Malley, would shake his head. "Not yet, Mrs. Rivera. We're still looking." Weeks became months, then years. Sophia's visits dwindled. Once a week, then once a month, then once a year. She'd walk in, her steps slower with age, and O'Malley would meet her gaze with the same silent shake of his head. She'd nod, turn, and leave, Luis's photo still tucked in her wallet beside a yellowed newspaper clipping. At home, she kept his room untouched, his small bed, his toy truck, a faint layer of dust settling over it all. "He's alive," she'd tell Roger, her voice firm despite the tears. "I feel it in my bones." Roger grew up, married, had kids of his own, but the weight of that day never left him. Sophia aged, her dark hair turning silver, her hands gnarled from years of work. Yet she never stopped believing. Luis didn't remember the plane ride, at least, not clearly. The woman with the green bandana had hustled him onto a small aircraft, the hum of the engine drowning out his questions. "Where's Roger?" he'd asked once, clutching the peppermint she'd given him. "He'll come later," she'd lied, her smile tight. "Eat your candy." They landed somewhere cold, far from Oakland's sunlit streets. A couple met them, a man with a stern jaw and a woman with nervous hands. "This is your new home, Tommy," the man said, his voice gruff. Luis frowned at the name, but the woman in the bandana was gone before he could protest. He became Tommy Harper, raised in a modest house on the East Coast, Massachusetts maybe, or Rhode Island. He never asked. His parents told him he was adopted, a story he accepted without question. Life was ordinary. School, baseball, scraped knees. The memories of Roger and Sophia faded, tucked away like a dream he couldn't grasp. At 18, he joined the Marines, shipping off to Vietnam in 1965. The jungle was chaos, gunfire, mud, the screams of men. But he survived, re-enlisting for a second tour. "You're a tough one, Harper," his sergeant said, clapping his shoulder. Luis, Tommy, grinned, unaware of the family across the country still mourning him. Back home, he became a firefighter, the adrenaline of the job suiting him. He married a nurse named Ellen, had 2 daughters, and settled into a quiet life. He knew he was adopted, but his past was a blank slate. "Doesn't matter where I came from," he'd tell Ellen, shrugging. "I'm here now." Meanwhile, Sophia aged alone, her annual pilgrimage to the police station a ritual of fading hope. She died in 2005 at 92, Luis's photo still on her nightstand. Roger wept at her funeral, whispering, "I'm sorry, Mama." I couldn't find him. In 2020, Alita Rivera, Roger's daughter sat at her kitchen table in Oakland, tearing open a DNA test kit. At 63, she was curious, not expectant. "Maybe I'll find a distant cousin," she joked to her husband, swabbing her cheek. The results arrived weeks later, and Alita froze at the screen. A match, 22% DNA shared with a man named Thomas Harper. "An uncle, maybe?" she murmured, clicking his profile. No photo, no message, just a name and a location, somewhere on the East Coast. She sent a note. "Hi, I'm Alita Rivera from California. Looks like we're related. Any chance you know the Rivera family?" And waited. Weeks passed. Nothing. 4 years later, in 2024, a TV documentary about missing children stirred her memory. She dug out the DNA results, Googling Thomas Harper. Photos popped up. A grizzled man in a firefighter's uniform, then older, with grandkids. Alita's breath caught. She pulled out a faded photo of Uncle Luis, the one her dad had kept all these years, and held it beside her laptop. The eyes, the jaw. Could it be? "Dad," she called Roger, now 83 and frail but sharp. "Look at this." Roger squinted at the screen, then the photo, his hands trembling. "Madre de Dios," he whispered. "That's him. That's Luis." Alita marched to the Oakland police, armed with printouts and conviction. "My uncle was kidnapped in 1951, she told a skeptical detective. "This guy, Thomas Harper, he's a DNA match. You have to check." The case, cold for 73 years, creaked back to life. The FBI took over, tracking Thomas to a small town in New Hampshire. Agents knocked on his door one crisp morning in early 2025. "Mr. Harper," an agent said, badge glinting. "We think you might be Luis Rivera, abducted from California in 1951. Luis, Tommy, stared, incredulous. "Kidnapped? I was adopted. Papers and everything." "Mind taking a DNA test?" the agent pressed, just to be sure. He agreed, more confused than alarmed. Days later, the results confirmed it. A match with Alita, Roger, and the Rivera family. On February 20th, 2025, Luis Rivera stepped off a plane in Oakland, 79 years old and trembling. Roger waited at the gate, leaning on a cane, tears streaking his weathered face. The brothers embraced, decades dissolving in a single moment. "Luis," Roger choked out, "I thought I'd lost you forever." "I didn't know," Luis said, voice thick. "All this time I didn't know." Alita introduced him to cousins, nieces, nephews, a family he'd never known. They swapped stories. Roger's guilt, Luis's wars, Sophia's unwavering hope. Photos of their mother brought fresh tears, Luis tracing her face, a memory flickering to life. But one question lingered. Who was the woman in the green bandana? Luis remembered little. A plane, a cold city, then the Harpers. His adoptive parents, long dead, had left no clues. The trail was 73 years cold, the kidnapper likely gone. "Maybe it doesn't matter," Luis said one night, sitting with Roger on the porch. "I'm home now." Roger nodded, squeezing his brother's hand. "Mama always said you were alive. She'd be so happy." Under the Oakland stars, two brothers reclaimed what time had stolen, the mystery of the green bandana fading into the past, unanswered but no longer defining their story.